Hello, how are you guys doing? Okay, I'm recording this topic because I won't be around. I'm not around right now, so I expect you to watch this video, which you're watching right now. Okay, we spoke about lipids, we spoke about carbohydrates, we spoke about lipids, and I sent you the video of lipid digestion. We started, but with nothing, but I sent you the video of lipid digestion and all that. So, and expected you guys to have watched that video. Now, this is the next topic, which is protein. I want us to finish this protein today so that the next class we're going to be talking about tests for nutrients and the rest of them. All right. So now, protein. So let's talk about our protein structure. It said proteins are micromolecules composed of amino acids. Now, there's something you should know. For carbohydrates, we know that the molecules of carbohydrates is what? Is glucose, right? Now, for lipids, it's triglycerides, right? Now, but for protein is amino acids. That's what you should know. And you know that protein is a micronutrient, right? So the fact that you know that protein is a micronutrient should let you know that they are all should let you know that it's also part of the three micronutrients we have. Okay, I know that there's micronutrients and there's macronutrients. So now let's go. Protein, they said, is a macromolecules composed of amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So yes, so for this reason, amino acids are commonly called the building blocks of protein. Now, there are 20 different amino acids, 20, and we require all of them to make the many different protein found throughout the body. Now, protein is one of the most versatile and the most vast nutrients in our body. Like literally, almost everything that functions in our body needs help of protein. Most of the things that functions in our body needs help of protein. So I'm going to take it one by one with you to show you the functions of protein. Are we okay? Now, but just know that protein has what? 20 amino acids. There are 20 amino acids. Okay? 20. Now, it's said that proteins are crucial for the nourishment, renewal, and continuance of life. What are the crucial points of for protein? Nourishment, renewal, and continuance of what? Life. Keep that in mind. Now, just like carbohydrate and fat, protein contains elements of what? Carbon, hydrogen, and what? Oxygen, right? Now, but proteins are the only macronutrients that contains nitrogen as part of their core structure. Now, what they're saying here is that carbohydrates and fat have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen as their major elements. But for protein has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, but also contains nitrogen. And they are the only macronutrient that contains nitrogen as part of their core structure. As part of their what? Their core structure. So if I ask in your exam and I say that, okay, among all these macronutrients, which of them contains nitrogen as is part of its core structure? You know it's what? Protein. Good. I said in each of the amino acid, the elements are arranged into specific conformation, consisting of a central carbon bound to the following four components. Watch this. In each amino acid, there is what? A central carbon that is bound to the four components. Watch the number one component is an hydrogen, a nitrogen containing amino group. A nitrogen containing what? A nitrogen containing what? Amino group. That's what it contains. It also contains what? A carboxylic acid group. Hence, that is where the name amino acid came from. There's amino group and there's a carboxylic acid. So the merging of all of them together brought what? Amino acid. Do you understand? Then a side chain. A what? A side chain. Now, the side chain represented by what? An R. So anywhere you see R, you know that what is side chain. In the diagram below is what makes each amino acid what? Unique. So what the side chain, there will be a particular structure that is different, that makes, which is as the R changes, that makes what? The amino acid unique. All right. So now look at the structure here. As you can see here, you see that what? This is OOH. And I told you then that this point here is what? Carbon, right? This is a carbon in the middle here. This point where the arrow is. And this is a carbon, right? And this is what? This carbon, this one is an alpha. So this is called an alpha carbon. Now, the alpha carbon contains, is connected to what? R group. Yes, that is the amino group. See it, NH2. Then this is what? This is, sorry, this is R group. This is what? The amino group. And this is what? The carboxylic acid group. Can you see? COOH. COOH. You can see it. COOH. Now, I want to show you something very important. Very important. Maybe you might not understand how this is. So let me just show you. Let me just show you how. Let me show you another structure that can help you. Another structure of carbon that can help you. All right, just give me a minute. Okay, it's right here. Somewhere around okay, so here we go. We're back. Look at this. See it. Can you see this? Now I'm going to send, let me give you something else. Yes, this is it. Are you seeing this? I think I should just zoom it out a little bit. Now, this is the H, this is the alpha carbon. The alpha carbon is the carbon that carries the central carbon. So it carries a R, it carries a COOH, which is a carboxylic acid group, and this is what? The amino group, and this is what? This is hydrogen. And this R is called the side chain. Let me show you another one here, another structure so you see it. Can you see it? Can you see this? This side amino, side chain, alpha carbon, and what? Carboxy what? Acid group. All right. Are we okay? Do you understand now? All right. So now back to our video. Okay. So back. So as we're saying, it's about see our structure again. All right. So then I said the amino acid chains vary tremendously in their size and can be as simple as one hydrogen. Now, example of amino acid that has one hydrogen is what? Glycine. And as complex as the one with multiple carbon ring, which is what? Tryptophan. Okay? Glycine and tryptophan, that's an example of what? An amino acid. Glycine is one that is the smallest, the simplest amino acid, is glycine. Then the complex amino acid, which is what? Tryptophan, that's an example. All right? The amino acid structure have different structures and chemical properties determined by their what? Side chain. Now, the amino acid can be divided into two. There is the essential amino acid and there's a non-essential amino acid. Now, let's take it one by one. See, we also classify amino acid based on their nutritional aspects. There's the essential and the non-essential amino acid. Non-essential amino acids are required in diet because the body are not required. Sorry, what am I even saying? Sorry. Now, non-essential amino acids are not required in diet because the body can synthesize them. That means that it's not by force you eat them, those essential acids. It's not by force you take a food, you consume a food that contains them, because your body can actually create and synthesize them. Your body, what do you mean synthesis? That means what? Breaking and mixing and all that to create something else, right? So now your body can actually synthesize them, right? To what? To create them. So that is what known as, but essential amino acid now in the case. Okay, now See, okay, we're still in non-essential amino acids. It said they are still vital to protein synthesis. They are still present in food, but because the body can make them, we don't have to worry about what nutritional requirements. Do you understand? Now there are 11 non-essential amino acids. 11. 11. 11 non-essential amino acids. So I said that there are 11 non-essential amino acids. Now let's take them. Okay. There is that's for non-essential amino acid. Now, for essential amino acid, now our body cannot synthesize for essential amino acid. Our body, we must eat it in food. It must be contained in our diet because our body needs it and it's very important to us. Let's read it. Essential amino acid can't be synthesized by the body in sufficient amount, so they must be obtained in diet. So all the protein food you must contain what your essential amino acid. Now there are 9. Now there is 11 non-essential amino acid and what 9 essential amino acid. Now for the essential amino acid we have histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and what? Valine. I'll take it again. We have what? Histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and what? Valine. Now, how many did we say we have essential amino acids? 9. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have what? 9 essential amino acids. Now, the non-essential amino acid, we have alanine, arginine, asparagine, aspartic acid, cysteine, glutamic acid, glutamine, glycine, proline, serine, and triosine. Now, you see some of these ones that have this down is they are called the conditional essential. Now we're getting there. Just calm down. Don't be too lost. Don't be too confused. We're getting there little by little. But before we get there, let's count how many non-essential. How many non-essential amino acids did I say we have? I want to hear you. How many did you say we have? 11. Good. 11. If you said 11, that's very good. Now, so we'll count them together. Everybody, 1, 2, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So let's count. Let's read it. Alanine, arginine, asparagine, aspartic acid, cysteine, glutamic acid, glutamine, glycine, proline, serine, triosine. And the ash star here is what? And this one, this star here is for what? Conditional essential and amino acid. Now we will tell you what conditional essential and amino acid is. But let's first know the one that are conditional essential. Arginine, cysteine, glycine, proline, and triosine. Now let's go. Now, sometimes during infancy when you're a kid, uh, growth and in disease states, during when you were when you're a child and when you were growing and when you were sick, the body could not synthesize enough of some of your non-essential amino acids, right? And more of them are required in diet. Now, there's sometimes that your body cannot synthesize the non-essential amino acid that are required in diet. And for the fact that they're required in diet, okay, so non-essential amino acid, and sometimes when your body cannot synthesize them, right? And there are some cases where your body cannot synthesize some of those non-essential, not all. So there are some that are gotten through diet, that they must be required, they must be got into diet by force. It's like this by force, by fire kind of thing. And those amino acids are called conditional essential amino acid. If you remember when I showed you that the previous scene, I showed you that There are some that had stars on it. Those are what conditional essential amino acids, right? The conditional, they are conditionally essential. Those ones are conditionally essential. That means that what your body, it's not every time your body can synthesize them. They are non-essential, but it's not every time. Your body can't synthesize them every time. Unlike the other ones that your body synthesize them every time, but those ones your body can't synthesize them. So in order for your body to be stronger and to continue its process and its work, it needs to what be taken through diet. That means through the food you eat. Okay, all right. The nutritional value of a protein is dependent on what amino acid it contains and what in what quantity. Okay. Now, um, so he said a food that contains all the essential amino acid in adequate amount is called a complete protein. Now, whereas one that does not contain is called what? Incomplete protein source. Okay, so they are saying that a food that contains all the essential amino acid you need are called what? Inadequate amount are called complete protein source. All right, where the one that does not are called incomplete protein source. Those are the ones that you have to take and add other types of protein to, like beans, for example. As far as because beans is not a complete protein source, but you can add other things to it, like maybe um meat to add to it. You get what I'm saying? So that's also something. Now, what are the protein functions? What are the functions of protein? Now, one thing you should know, proteins are called the workhorses of the body. The what? The workhorses. Say workhorses. Now, the workhorses, that means what? You know what horse does now? You know what the work, you know what horses are known for. Now, what they are saying is that proteins are the ones that participate in many bodily functions. Every tiny bit of everything you have, every part of your system, protein is needed. Now we're going to get in there in large now. Now, examples of proteins with different functions, sizes, and shapes. Now, number one function of protein is what? Structure. Protein gives what? Structure. How? More than 100 different structural proteins have been discovered in the human body, but the most abundant by far is collagen, which is 6% of the total body weight. Collagen. Hmm? Now we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Just listen. Okay. Now, collagen is a form of protein. Okay. It's an example of protein. All right. Now, collagen is a strong fibrous protein made up of mostly glycine and proline amino acids. Collagen is made up of what? Glycine and what? Proline amino acids. Collagen makes up of what? 30% of bone tissue and comprises what? Large amount of tendons, ligaments, cartilage, skins, and what? Muscle. Should I come again? This is self-explanatory. Let me come again. Now, I said what? First, I said it's a very strong what? Fibrous protein, which is made up of what? Made up of what? Number one is what? Glycine, and what? Proline. Good. Now, then I said it makes up of what? The 30% of our what? Our bone tissue, our comprised of large amount of what? Tendons. You know our tendons are found around our bone, ligaments, cartilage, skin, and what? Muscles. They are found, it made that collagen makes up of 30% of all these things you just saw. Now, it's like the collagen makes bones strong but flexible. That's why you see our bones, they are strong yet they are flexible. Okay. Now, collagen fibers in the skin's dermis provide it with structure and accompanying elastic protein fibrils make it flexible. Now, elastic protein fibrils. Now, one thing you should know is that collagen is not only found in the bone, it's found under our skin, under especially the dermis. Now, what it does is that it helps what in the flexibility of our skin. Have you ever seen somebody put somebody's skin? If you don't have collagen now, if you pull the skin, what it does that the skin just remain pulled like that. But because of presence of collagen on our skin, uh, if you pull that skin, it goes back to its normal position, right? Now let's see. Now pinch the skin in your hand. Pinch it. Everybody try and pinch your skin. Don't pinch yourself to injure yourself. Just pinch a little, pull the skin, then let it go. Now the reason why your skin has gone back to its normal position is what? The presence of what? Collagen and what? Elastin proteins. Now, the smooth muscle cells that secrete collagen and elastin proteins surround blood vessels, providing the vessel with structure and ability to what? Stretch. Okay? So now the presence of collagen under your skin alongside with what? Elastin proteins helps your skin to what? Stretch. That's collagen. Then another strong fibrous protein that we have apart from collagen is what? Keratin. Keratin, that one is very important for your hair, skin, and nails. The source of strength for your nails. Why your nails grow long, and you want to be like, oh, look at my hair. My hair is long. I have long nails. If you notice, it's because of your intake of protein. Well, good protein. And keratin is there. Since you got the keratin, and it's a strong fiber, it helps what? Strengthen you. It helps with your growth of nails, hair, and what? Your skin, making your skin shiny. This is why your skin is looking shiny, not some of your skin not looking like a shrink. No, when there's enough keratin, your skin is what? Shiny and what? Smooth and what? Firm. Okay? All right. So the next one after structure is what? Enzymes. Remember I mentioned what enzymes. What are enzymes? Come on, guys. Remember I mentioned this. What are enzymes? Okay, we are saying it. Enzymes are biochemical catalysts that aids what? Reaction. Hmm? Now, the so-called enzymes are actually protein. Yes, they are protein. I know you're like, eh? Okay, now, enzymes are protein that conduct specific chemical reaction. An enzyme's job is to provide a site for chemical reaction and to lower the amount of energy and time it takes for that chemical reaction to happen. This is known as what? Catalysis. Catalysis. Catalysis is the reduction of the amount of energy and time it takes for a chemical reaction to happen. That's what catalysis. So enzymes are what? Catalysts. And they are what? Protein. Who's confused? All right. So if you're confused, write it down. Tell me where you are confused. When next you see me, ask me about it. I'll shed more light on it. Are we okay? All right. Thank you. Now, on the average, more than 100 chemical reaction occurs in cells every single second. Most of them require what? Enzymes. The liver alone contains what? 1,000 enzyme system. The liver na boss. So the liver is the boss of the body. Contains what? 1,000 enzyme system. That's why our liver is one of the most important part of our body. Also, so we spoke about the type function of protein. Number one, structure. Number two, enzyme. Now, number three is hormones. Hormones. Somebody say hormones. Now, proteins are responsible for what? Hormone synthesis. As I told you that protein actually is in every part of our body. Is there. Everything, every function of our body, we find protein. All right. So hormones are chemical messengers produced by endocrine glands. Produced by what? Endocrine glands. Hormones are chemical messengers. Remember that time I was talking to you about um, um, we're talking about how food digests carbohydrate and all that. And I mentioned something like hormones. I said that there's some, yes, some of you asked that how does your body know that, how does your brain send message to your liver that there's excess sugar in the bloodstream, that it needs to convert those sugar into glycogen? Some of you asked, and I said presence of what? Hormones. Because hormones are the what? Chemical messengers. They're the one that are following up and down. They're the post office. Hey, well, letter is here. Oh, they send letter. The president said you should do that. And the president is what? The brain. Telling the what? The liver. Do this, do this, do this. Do you understand? Now that is what hormones. And the hormones are functional because of what? Protein. Proteins. The hormones are what? Protein. And the hormones are produced by endocrine glands. We have different endocrine glands. Yes, we have different. We have the thyroxine gland around the neck. That's what deals with our height. Well, when there's excess secretion of thyroxine hormone, that's you give what? Giantism. And when there's less secretion, you give dwarfism. Right? So there is adrenaline gland. That's the one that deals. That's called the that releases adrenaline hormone, which is called the emergency hormone. That period when one dog, all these Rottweiler dogs are pursuing you. That point where they are pursuing you, they are running after you. The reason why you can run as fast as Usain Bolt is because of what? The adrenaline gland. I remember I told you that time, and you even hit your leg, or you will not feel the pain yet until you have settled down. Like after like 30 minutes later, that's when I start feeling my leg. Why? Because at that moment your body is flooded with adrenaline hormone. Okay. Then also we have the one hormones like um other hormones like the progesterone hormone. That's and we have estrogen. That's for girls. Sexual maturation of girls. From you see, they start releasing progesterone, pregnancy hormone, and estrogen also. That's sexual hormone. Then testosterone is for the boys. Testosterone hormone is for the boys. All right. So like that, there are different types of hormone. All right. Now let's go. Now, an endocrine gland is stimulated. When an endocrine gland is stimulated, it releases an hormone. The hormone is then transported to the blood to its target cell, where it communicates a message to initiate a specific reaction or what? Cellular process. Is that something I just said now? All right. For instance, after you eat a meal, your blood glucose level rises. In response to the increased blood glucose, the pancreas releases hormone called insulin. The insulin tells the cells of the body that glucose is available and to take it up from the blood and store it or use it for making energy or building micromolecules. Actually, very explanatory. Something I explained to you the other time. All right. Hey, and let's go. A major function of hormones is to turn enzymes on and off. Is what? Turn enzymes what? On and off. That's the major function of hormone. So some proteins can even regulate the actions of other protein. So I tell you that protein is very, very vast. Now, while not all hormones are made from proteins, not all hormones are made from protein, but many, majority of the hormones we have are made from what? Proteins. Okay? Now, next one is what? Fluid and acid base balance. Fluid and what? Acid base balance. Now, one aspect of this fluid balance is keeping water distributed properly in different compartments of the body. That's one of the functions of protein. It does keep the water distributed properly in the different compartments of the body. Therefore, that fluid exchange between the blood and the cell is not in the extreme, but rather a minimized is minimized to preserve what? Homeostasis. Now I want you to go and find out what homeostasis is. That's one of your assignments. Homeostasis, homeostasis. I know what it means, but I'm going to ask you to go and find out what homeostasis is. Okay? It's something that has to do with regulation, okay, of internal environment kind of thing. So find out what it means. All right. Okay. So now Protein is also essential in maintaining the proper pH balance. Remember our pH. I remember that pH is what? The scale that is used to find out, test for what? Acidity and alkalinity, or acid or basic substance. Now, so protein is essential in maintaining the proper pH balance of the blood. I remember that our acid, the stomach acid, is in what pH? Around what? 1 to 3, between 1 and 3, right? In pH scale. That means it's very acidic. Then water is 7, right? Then we have other ones that are like those, that's neutral. Now, look at this. Blood pH is what? 7.3 and on 7, between 7.3 and 7.4. So it is neutral or slightly basic. Okay. So even the slight change, that means the slight change of blood pH can affect your body function. So if your blood pH increases or decreases, there's a problem. Now, the body has several systems that hold the blood pH within the normal range to prevent all these things from happening, especially what? The presence of what? Protein. Now, the other function, and let's mention the other functions. The first function. Number one, first function of protein, we have what? Enzymes, we have hormones, we have acid base balance, and there's one more, acid base balance. And so I said we should mention it. Let's go. Number one, structure. Number two, hormones. Number three, enzymes. Number four, acid base balance. Number five, transport. Oh, transport. And maybe asking, what does protein have to do with transport? All right, let's go. Now, proteins are also play a vital role in transporting substance around the body. Some of these proteins are channels that allow particular molecules to one-way taxis and require energy to function. Now, one thing means is that sometimes when you break down your carbohydrate, you see that carbohydrate and lipids actually needs protein to be transported. It needs to be merged with protein to be transported into these body parts and body organs and system that we need, and cells that we need, that needs our body, that needs nutrients. So carbohydrate, when your carbohydrate is broken down, it's kind of gets it gets when it gets to absorption process, it is mixed with the help of protein. Protein helps transport them and transport itself. Okay? Transport lipid, transport vitamins, transport minerals, transport its own self. The protein is like the keke or the car for everybody. All right. Okay. Then the next one is immunity. 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 That's the next one. Immunity. Okay. All right. So what do you say by the word immunity? To be immune to something. What do you mean by? What do you say by the word immunity? I need you to write it down on your book. What do you understand by the word immunity? I'm going to give you like few seconds for you to write it down. I'm going to count like 10 so that you can write the first 3 words that comes to your mind when you hear the word immunity. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. So proteins are also play important roles in the body's immune system. Now, immunity is the act of protection, okay, guidance and protection against sickness and diseases, or against something that will harm that person. Now, so they said protein also play an important role in the body's immune system. The strong collagen fibers in the skin protect it with structures and support, but also serve as barricade against harmful substance. They're telling you that collagen can serve as structure and also as what? Against a barricade against harmful substance. They're telling you that way now that immunity, protein can protect your skin. Now, the immune system's attack and destroy functions. That means your immune system, the attack and destroy functions are dependent on what? Enzymes and antibodies, which are also what? Protein. So if I ask you this in your exam, now the immune system attack and destroy functions are dependent on what? They are what? Dependent on what? Enzymes and what? Antibodies, which are also what? Protein. Then also energy production. That is another function of protein, energy production. Energy what? Production. Now, if a person's diet does not contain enough carbohydrates and fat, their body will use more amino acid to make energy, which can compromise the synthesis of what? New protein and destroy muscle proteins if calorie intake is also low. Now, what this means is, how many of you have heard of something called keto diet? Now, keto diet is the type of diet that where you take more of protein and you don't take carbohydrates. I know carbohydrate and fat are actually the source of energy for us. But once you don't take that, the body will need a source of energy. So what it does was that it uses protein. You're eating protein. It has a way of breaking down your body, breaking down your muscle protein, your diet, your muscle protein, your calorie and all the parts, all those fats, break down those fats and muscle proteins and convert them to a source of what? Energy for you. So that's what happens. That's why people that are doing keto diet tend to start losing weight. Now, not only can amino acids be used for energy directly, but they can also be used to synthesize glucose through gluconeogenesis. Alternatively, if the person is consuming a high protein diet and eating more calories than their body needs, the extra amino acid will be broken down and transformed into fat. Now, unlike carbohydrate and fat, protein does not have any specialized storage system to be used later for energy. So that's one thing you should know.
Protein is an
So I'm going to play this video for you. I want you to listen carefully.
essential part of the human diet. It's found in a variety of foods like eggs, dairy, seafood, legumes, meats, nuts, and seeds. Regardless of the source, the protein that we eat gets broken down and reformed into new proteins in our bodies. These proteins do everything from fighting infections to helping cells divide. You name it, they're doing it. At its simplest, a protein is a chain of amino acids bound to one another by peptide bonds, like a string of beads. These strings get twisted and folded into a final protein shape.
I think we should just start again. Just start again.
The protein that we eat gets nuts. Protein is an essential part of the human diet. It's found in a variety of foods like eggs, dairy, seafood, legumes, meats, nuts, and seeds. Regardless of the source, the protein that we eat gets broken down and reformed into new proteins in our bodies. These proteins do everything from fighting infections to helping cells divide. You name it, they're doing it. At its simplest, a protein is a chain of amino acids bound to one another by peptide bonds, like a string of beads. These strings get twisted and folded into a final protein shape. When we eat protein, it gets broken down into its individual amino acids. Most amino acids have a central carbon atom bonded to one amino or nitrogen-containing group and one carboxylic acid group. That's why it's called an amino acid. The carbon also has one hydrogen atom and a side chain, which is unique to each amino acid. The exception to this is proline, which has a tiny little ring structure instead. Although there are hundreds of amino acids in nature, humans only use about 20 of them to make basically every type of protein. They include alanine, arginine, asparagine, aspartic acid, cysteine, glutamic acid, glutamine, glycine, histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, proline, serine, threonine, tryptophan, tyrosine, and valine. That's 20. One way to divide them is by defining which ones our bodies can make and which ones we can't. There are 5 amino acids, alanine, asparagine, aspartic acid, glutamic acid, and serine, that we can get from foods, but we can also make ourselves. These are called non-essential amino acids. Then there are 6 that we call conditionally essential because healthy bodies can make them under normal circumstances, arginine, cysteine, glutamine, glycine, proline, and tyrosine. But we can't make them in cases like starvation or certain inborn errors of metabolism. Finally, there are 9 of them that we can only get from food: histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. We call these the essential amino acids. Dietary protein provides the essential amino acids that are needed to make our own proteins, hormones, and other important molecules, a circle of life of sorts. But to do so, we need to break the dietary protein down first, through a process called proteolysis. When we first eat a protein-containing food, proteolysis begins when the food reaches the stomach. First, hydrochloric acid denatures the protein, unfolding it, and making the amino acid chain more accessible to enzymatic action. Then, pepsin, which is a protein itself made by gastric chief cells, enters the picture. Pepsin cleaves any available protein into smaller oligopeptide chains, which move into the duodenum, where a second set of digestive enzymes, made by the pancreas, further chop the oligopeptides into tripeptides, dipeptides, and individual amino acids. These can all be taken up to the intestinal cells, where di and tripeptides are then converted into amino acids. Some amino acids remain in these cells and are used to synthesize intestinal enzymes and new cells. But most enter the bloodstream and are transported to other parts of the body. In general, animal-based protein foods like eggs, dairy, seafood, and meat provide all 9 essential amino acids in adequate amounts. Soy foods are unique in that they are plant-based and also provide all 9 essential amino acids in adequate amounts. Most other plant foods, including whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, have high amounts of some amino acids and low amounts of others. Hearing this, it might be easy to assume that animal-based foods provide more protein than plant-based ones. But, as it turns out, a cup of tofu has the same number of grams of protein as 3 ounces of steak, chicken, or fish. And half a cup of lentils has more grams of protein than an egg. And not all plant foods are low in the same amino acids, so eating a variety of plant-based foods can provide all 9 of the essentials. For example, pairing protein sources, like rice and beans, or hummus and pita bread, or oatmeal topped with almond butter. However, in terms of volume, it may be necessary to eat more plant-based foods to get a similar amount of protein and amino acid profile provided by animal-based proteins. Generally speaking, daily protein requirements are based on studies that estimate the minimum amount of protein needed to avoid a progressive nitrogen loss. The World Health Organization guidelines and the U.S. recommended dietary allowance each estimate that daily protein requirements for healthy adults are about 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. Protein recommendations per day vary by age as well. Children 1 to 3 years of age are recommended to get 13 grams. For ages 4 to 8, 19 grams are recommended. And between ages 9 and 13, 34 grams are recommended. Whether a person is male or female also impacts protein needs. Females ages 14 and above are recommended to get 46 grams of protein per day. Males age 14 to 18 need slightly more, about 52 grams per day. And males, 19 and older, are recommended to get 56 grams per day. Some groups, like pregnant and breastfeeding women, as well as athletes, have elevated needs, and older adults may also benefit from eating more protein. Getting the right amount of protein per day can be achieved in multiple ways. For example, 1 serving of Greek yogurt with breakfast, a salad topped with 3 ounces of chicken for lunch, and 3 to 4 ounces of fish at dinner provides about 64 grams of protein. Getting the same amount of protein could also be achieved by eating a cup of tofu scramble and a slice of peanut butter toast for breakfast, a cup of shelled edamame with lunch, and 1 cup of lentils and brown rice at dinner, which also offers about 64 grams of protein in total. Now, the fact is that it's still unclear what an optimal amount of protein is, and the research is ongoing. In clinical settings, there are certain individuals who may be at risk for a protein deficiency, including patients with malnutrition, trauma, and burn injuries, as well as various conditions impacting nutrient absorption like inflammatory bowel disease. These individuals may have increased protein needs compared to the general population. Except for certain circumstances like kidney disease, there usually isn't a health risk associated with eating a lot of protein because our bodies are able to process it. Alright, as a quick recap. Protein is a cornerstone of the human diet and a major component of our bodies. There are 5 non-essential, 6 conditionally essential, and 9 essential amino acids. We need to get essential amino acids from our diet. Protein needs vary depending on life cycle stage, level of physical activity, and health status. Some health conditions may put people at risk for protein deficiency or increased protein needs. Everyone, whether omnivorous, vegetarian, or vegan, can get enough protein.
All right, so that is that about protein. Now let's talk about we're going to talk about digestion of protein now. How do we digest protein? Digestion and absorption of protein. So how do our body digest protein? Let's go.
It's protein time, baby. So how does the body digest and absorb all the protein molecules we get from food? Before we get to that, let's do a quick review of proteins. Without going in depth, proteins are large molecules made up of amino acids. Amino acids are linked together by peptide bonds to form a polypeptide chain. And some proteins are single polypeptide chains, and other proteins can have folds and many polypeptide chains linked together. There are 2 main places that protein digestion takes place: in the stomach and in the small intestine. Once the protein molecules are swallowed and enter the stomach, chief cells in the stomach release the enzyme pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is an inactive enzyme because if it were active in the cells, it would destroy proteins located inside the cells. Hydrochloric acid released inside the stomach causes a low pH level, and this actually activates pepsinogen to pepsin. And it also denatures the proteins or changes the shapes of proteins, causing them to unfold. Pepsin breaks down the proteins into smaller fragments. So next, the food or chyme enters into the small intestine from the stomach. The higher pH of the small intestine inhibits pepsin from further breakdown of the partially digested protein. However, there are 3 enzymes that are released by the pancreas into the small intestine that do continue digestion: trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, and procarboxypeptidase. All 3 of these are inactive when released. An enzyme called enteropeptidase is released by the small intestine, and this enzyme activates trypsinogen to trypsin, which in turn activates other trypsinogen into trypsin, and chymotrypsinogen to chymotrypsin, and procarboxypeptidase to carboxypeptidase. Trypsin and chymotrypsin act on bonds between specific amino acids within the partially digested protein, breaking them into smaller peptide fragments. Carboxypeptidase can only act on a specific end of a fragment, breaking the bond and releasing one amino acid at a time. So at this point there are free amino acids, dipeptides, which are 2 amino acids bonded together, and small peptide fragments. The brush border or microvilli, which are tiny hair-like projections located on the enterocyte cells of the small intestine, also contain enzymes that finish the breakdown process. The brush border enzyme dipeptidase breaks the bond between dipeptides, and aminopeptidase acts on a specific end of a fragment, releasing 1 amino acid at a time. Free amino acids are then absorbed into the enterocyte cells through membrane transporters within the membranes of the cells. Some di- and tripeptides are also absorbed into the enterocyte cells through specific membrane transporters, where they are then broken down into free amino acids. On the other side of the enterocyte cells, the amino acids are transported out of the cell into blood, where they then travel to the liver. Some of the amino acids will be taken up by liver cells, some will be used by cells throughout the body as building blocks of new proteins, and if there are excess amino acids, they can be converted to glucose, or they can be broken down and used as fuel for cellular respiration. Alright folks, so that be the basics on the digestion and absorption of proteins.
Alright, so that is that about digestion and absorption of protein. I hope if you have questions, let me know. I've sent you your notes. I've sent you this video. There are 2 videos. There's protein 1 and protein 2. And next time I come, I'm going to be talking about scientific study of food. All right. Have a lovely day. Thank you very much. Bye.